We are almost there. We are this close. 2020 will be a year long remembered, but I honestly think I speak for a lot of people when I say I am going to be so happy when it's over. There are only 3 months left. 3 short months. And of course, what is an anime fan to do but to hope and pray that there will be something in this final season for the year that makes the time fly by. Or at least makes it a bit more bearable. I think we might have just the thing, because while this year has been rocky in several respects, I feel like going into this final anime season, we have a decent amount to be excited about. So of course, today on Glass Reflection, we're going to be taking a look at 5 anime from the upcoming fall season that I believe have the potential to make this season even just a little bit more enjoyable. Let's jam. I'm putting this one here, despite it running somewhat counter to the title of this video, or maybe that's not right. I am anticipating this series. It does belong here in that respect, but it's not for positive reasons. So Higurashi was originally an anime that aired way back in 2006. It had 2 very strong seasons that cemented the series as one of the best horror/thriller anime out there. But from a narrative perspective, the series did indeed end. Sure, there were further OVAs and other stories told with the characters beyond that, but for all intents and purposes, the story of Higurashi was animated. Quite well, I might add. And it was complete. So I question the need to remake it. When we saw remake adaptations of shows like Fullmetal Alchemist, Sailor Moon, and more recently Fruits Basket, it's because the original adaptations were either incomplete or had several major changes from the original stories that kind of justified it. But that's not the case here. Like, I am really happy that this means we'll get even better quality animations than what we got from over a decade ago, and this will shine a spotlight on a story that does still hold up today. Nevertheless, I have to question the show's existence, and I do wonder if it's not actually a remake at all, but perhaps some sick in-universe joke making the characters once again repeat the horrors of the past. But we'll have to see. This entry is here because a part of my nostalgic side really wants this series to be good. The original story is being written by Jun Maeda, who, for those that don't know, is one of the lead writers at visual novel studio Key. You might have heard of them. This man has been responsible for writing some of my favorite anime narratives of all time, which normally would have been enough to get me so unbelievably hyped for this series. Except I haven't been a fan of absolutely everything he's done. Although in fairness, I do think that I am alone in that. While Air, Canon, and Clannad were monumental cornerstones of my early days watching anime, later stories written by him, while they haven't necessarily been bad per se, I felt much more lukewarm about them. There's still plenty to like about them. For example, I've seen Angel Beats praised to the skies and back, but for me, I still had major problems with the pacing of the story. I felt that the original Key Kyoto Animation trilogy of anime worked really well because the stories were already written for the visual novels, whereas Angel Beats still had a hard go at it because they were writing it specifically for this series and couldn't really get a handle on how to pace the story with the small amount of episodes that they had available to them. And this same problem could resurface here. This is another anime original, which is the main cause of my worry. Now, I really do hope that in a few months I can look back on this and say that there really was nothing that I should have been concerned about, and I should be right now a lot more excited than I currently am, but those worries are not something that I can easily brush away. And hopefully, I'll just be wrong. I really do want to be. So the story itself is based on a light novel from 2016. It's about a young witch traveling the world, which in and of itself is fine. It sounds quite wholesome, in fact, and I need some of that these days. But everything about the production has been a series of question marks for me. Let me explain. The studio handling it, C2C, is not all that well known, and this is not a surprise in and of itself. It's not what confuses me, but once you get into the staff working on the series, that's what really makes my head tilt a bit. Kazuyuki Fudeyasu is listed for series composition, but that honestly means nothing to me as far as trying to sort out exactly how good this show might be. Fudeyasu has been attached to so many different shows and genres that trying to nail anything down is almost impossible. Will it be more like Bento, Camphor, Milky Homes, or will it be more in line with Slime, Girls Last Tour, and interspecies reviewers? Who's to say? Granted, this is an adaptation, but having not read the original, and since the original is the only work by that author, this information doesn't help me all that much at all. I will say that seeing Toshiyuki Kuboka's name listed as director was not something I was expecting. He is more well known to people who follow classic anime from the 80s. He was the animation director for Gundam War in the Pocket, as well as the chief animation director for the classic Gainax OVA, Gunbuster. Since then, he's only really been in the director's seat twice, handling the Berserk film starting in 2012, as well as that one beach volleyball anime from 2 years back. Can you understand yet why looking at the staff for the show has been a real trip for me? None of this makes sense. Does that mean that it's going to be good? Does that mean it's going to be terrible? I honestly don't know. But whether the series is a masterpiece or a clusterfuck, I'll be watching it anyways, because my expectations are for a nice, chill series about a young witch. And if it's able to meet those low expectations, then perfect. If not, well, it's not like I didn't see the warning signs. Now, this one is a series that so far has been very light on the story details, but the production staff behind it has me intrigued once again. It seems like an above-average high school supernatural action series about curses, even bigger curses, and in just the PV alone, there are some surprisingly well put together cuts of animation. Sure, that's kind of what the PV is for, and there is the possibility that all of that is just the exception and not really indicative of the average animation of the show, but MAPPA, the studio handling it, has had a banger year so far, and they are no slouch in the animation department traditionally. The curious thing, staff-wise, that was tilting my head in this case is that the show has 3 separate composers listed for the music. That could just be a typo with the fact sheet, or perhaps they mixed in those working on the OP and the ED along with the general composer, or maybe one of them is just doing insert songs, but we normally don't see that, and I'm interested to hear how the soundtrack turns out because of it. I've also been hearing little tidbits about this series for a while now, specifically about its manga. Now, I don't put much stock into that because, as longtime viewers will know, I care far more about the anime than the manga. But it's been said that Kohei Horikoshi, the mangaka for My Hero Academia, claimed that Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be the next pillar of Shonen Jump, which is not something that anyone should take lightly. Honestly, I'm not worried all that much about the adaptation, at least, because I haven't been heavily disappointed by MAPPA yet. If there's anything to be truly worried about, it's that MAPPA might not be able to handle double duty, what with, well, now, technically, its release has only been tentatively labeled as later this year, and knowing 2020, it could be pushed back, but I have to bring this series up. MAPPA, like with Jujutsu Kaisen, is handling the production of the final season for Attack on Titan, taking over for Wit Studio, who worked on all prior seasons of the show. Now, I'm not entirely clear as to why there was a production studio change here. Perhaps the publishers desperately wanted this final season to align with the end of the manga, and Wit had earlier commitments. Perhaps Wit just wanted to handle other projects, so they signed off on not working on this one. Whatever the case, there are few studios out there that I think could handle the intensity needed for this final season of Titan, and MAPPA certainly makes it onto the short list. Beyond that, though, do I really need to explain to anyone why this entry is here today? Like, I didn't shine a spotlight on previous seasons of Titan because I basically said that if you watched and enjoyed season 1, then you'll probably enjoy the following seasons. So when I made anticipated videos for when those were coming out, I gave them quick mentions at the top of the video and moved on. But in this case, it's the final season. So rarely do we get something so narratively clean-cut as to tell us that yes, this is indeed the end. Now, there may be other spin-offs or extra OVAs in the future, as this franchise is and has been huge So I don't expect this to be the last Titan we ever get. But as far as the main story that has been slowly adapted since 2013, this is it. And the moment has been prepared for. I can only hope that MAPPA is up to the task because, well, you know what I say about endings. Speaking of endings, that is it. We have reached the end of the video. As always, there will be links for the shows presented here today that get picked up for streaming down in the description, and you can use those links to keep an eye on when the first episodes should be releasing. We're almost there. 2020 is almost over. While this video may showcase the top anticipated of fall 2020, I know all too well that the real anticipation is just to get to winter 2021, just so that we're out of 2020 and it's gone and done. We can only hope that it will be a much better year for all of us. At the very least, there's gonna be more laid-back camp come January, so hey, I'm all set. This video has no sponsor, but of course it would also absolutely not have been able to be made without the generous support of my lovely patrons, without whom I would be unable to do what I do, and for that, I am eternally grateful. Very special thanks to particular patrons like Hector Montemayor, Richard Emile Bradley, Rune Jacobson, Bryphon Bonaparte, Sid Yamako, and Calhoun Boy, because you guys are especially awesome, and I thank you. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime. Stay frosty.